Good evening, everybody. It is Tuesday. A little change in schedules here. Tuesday, July 1st, 2014, and this is the Unnamed podcast episode. Unnamed Hangout, episode number 5. I am your host. My name is John. Joining me on my far left is Dave.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I'm back. Oh, I was in the podcast. I was still in my pod, but I'm here and I'm ready to go. Really excited about the show. It's been a couple weeks off, and it takes a little bit to roll back in this thing. And the fact that we wing a lot of this stuff, I kind of wing my intro too.
He's I see he took his glasses off. He's getting serious, and on my other left, joining us tonight with me is Jason. Jason, the Dark Nerd.
Hey, just rolling with it.
And what was that you were taking a sip of? I think I recognize Dave's beverage of choice.
Mine is very simple. It's just some green tea.
Oh, okay.
I'm having green tea and a green
tea.
Well, and I didn't bring anything. I'm going to have to flag down the cocktail waitress and see if I can get some service later on here today. So tonight for our movie quote, I'm going to try and make this a little more difficult. You've probably heard this quote, but we'll see if you know the movie.
That's what I need is more difficult.
That's right.
Definitely.
I want all hands visible on this. No, I don't want to hear any typing. All right.
All hands on deck. I did say deck.
Oh.
You know how to whistle, don't you,
Steve?
Oh,
come on.
You just put your lips together and blow.
Now, there's a lot of different movies that's in.
Well, okay. I only have it in I'm going to say this is probably the original movie, not the I don't believe this is Maryland.
No, are you thinking of the Dead Men Don't Wear Plaid, Steve Martin?
No. This is.
Oh, so I did pick Steve Martin. So I was.
No, that's not. So, what do you think?
Like the original?
Yeah, I'm guessing it's the original.
Are you talking way back, 1940s original?
Yes.
To have and have not?
Wow, nice job. And I see his hands are visible too.
Well,
damn.
Yeah, he's typing with something else.
I got to give you credit. That was good because I wouldn't have even gotten close to that one. When you were starting to ask me too many questions about the original movie, I was thinking, I don't know. I think it's the original. To Have or to Have Not, 1944.
Yeah, isn't it with Humphrey Bogart?
I think so. Yeah. You must watch a lot of movies.
I just have a lot of stupid trivia in my head.
Well,
I was just doing this with my my younger brother.
I call it retardedness.
it's autistic, movie autism.
I really thought that was going to slow somebody down a little bit, but okay, well all right.
I haven't even had a chance to speed up, so I'm kind of at a standstill. So maybe next week you could do something. I'll give you the movie that I watched last week. You can give me a quote from it.
I got one for you, Dave. You were gone. But may the force be with you.
No clue. Never heard it.
Well, I didn't think
that's Spaceballs.
Yeah, Spaceballs.
Oh, that's the Schwartz.
Wow.
The Schwartz be with you.
So I think the last time we got together, we were talking about sports picks. I think that was like 3 basketball seasons ago.
Sure seems like it.
I think I know how I did. I'm thinking we should skip this segment, but go ahead and tell a fan how we did.
Your ironclad pick and everything like that was 0. This is how long ago it was that we did the podcast. Or
was not ironclad.
Yeah. the hockey season and basketball season were still going on, so that gives some indication of how long ago it was. So the funny thing is, and anybody knowing me and Dave, I'm the big hockey fan. He's the big basketball fan, and we reversed here. He actually got the hockey pick right, and I got the basketball pick right. So I picked. Who did I pick? Oh, I picked San Antonio, and you guys both picked Miami. So I won that basketball one, and then Dave went out on a limb and picked LA, while we both picked the Rangers to win. And yeah.
I knew the Rangers couldn't do it.
Well, after the third game, I pretty much figured it was over. They just they didn't have heart.
And I think LeBron that was the most pathetic finals I've seen in a long, long time. They just cashed it in.
Basketball finals?
Yes, absolutely. That was horrific. I mean, they didn't even show up for the game. Nobody.
They showed up for the first.
LeBron. They didn't show up. They showed up because somebody drove a bus there and dropped them off. Other than that, there was nothing. They had nothing going on. No cohesiveness. It looked like a team that a squad that had never played together. I mean, they were throwing the ball away. Everybody's looking at each other. I mean, these are the guys that made it to the finals. You know, I give a lot of credit to San Antonio, but I mean, they looked absolutely pathetic. It was the worst finals I've seen in a long time.
Well, it didn't seem like you gave much credit to San Antonio at all.
No, I give a lot of. I think San Antonio had a lot to do with that. I just thought Miami was better than that. I figured they'd rise above that. You regroup, you come back out stronger. You know, you recognize your weaknesses. You look over the tape. You make some adjustments. You do something different. They didn't do anything different. They looked just as pathetic in every game thereafter. They came out of one game in the first quarter. They had a big run. They were up 22 to something. LeBron had a huge first quarter, and they got away from it. I mean, he was. I'm done talking about it. It was just absolutely ridiculous.
So, what are you saying? You weren't pleased with the outcome?
I really don't care. I'm not really a fan of either team. I hate San Antonio because there's a big rivalry out here. I've never been a Miami fan, but I really wanted to see a good finals. I mean, if you watch sports, I mean, I think that's what it comes down to for most of us, is you want to see something competitive. I mean, these are the guys at the tops of their games and stuff like this. These are the best of the best, the cream of the crop. You want to see a good game, and they really let me down.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, I kind of felt the same way about hockey. I thought the Rangers should have put on a better show than they did, and it was pretty.
I actually watched the last game of hockey. We were up in the White Mountains having dinner in Dave's favorite Mexican restaurant in the White Mountains, and the game was on, and it was pretty exciting to see the Kings celebrate. And so I believe they were probably pretty big underdogs, were they not? Oh,
no, well, not really. I mean, I think it was a fairly even matchup. I think a lot of people, obviously thought that the Kings were going to win, and a lot of people were hoping that the Kings would win. I don't know. I started out as a Kings fan. I'm not going to say that I'm a Kings fan now, but because I'm not jumping on the bandwagon of that. Actually, I've come to I wouldn't say hate the Kings, but kind of dislike them. Kind of like how you don't like the Lakers. It's one of those things where I've been on the East Coast since for I don't know what 25 years, and so I'm now. I guess I'm more of an East Coaster than a West Coaster now.
You're more liberal now.
Yeah. Right.
I don't hate the Lakers. Did I say I hated the Lakers?
No, Dave hates the Lakers.
Oh, okay.
And it's crazy. I grew up in L.A. and I don't know how. The Rams are from L.A. and I will love them. That's my team, no matter what, do or die, thick or thin. I'll always be a Rams fan. Wherever they end up, it's in my blood. but and there's a lot goes into it. But I grew up a Blazers fan, and we've been in the same division. So yeah, I learned to hate the other teams, and I wasn't a big baseball fan until I moved to Arizona. I became a D-backs fan, so it was easy. I mean, those rivalries, yeah, it's easy to hate LA. I mean, and hate is a pretty strong word, but I mean that's a sports word. That's what we use. That's how we feel. We're passionate about the teams that we love, and we embrace that. So, yeah, I hate those guys out there.
Maybe we'll have to start talking baseball.
Yeah.
And considering I grew up outside of San Francisco, now's a good time to be a Giants fan.
I think baseball would be interesting because I think we all would like different teams, which would make it interesting. Because I think with football, I'm the same way. I'm a Rams fan. That's the way it's going to be, and that's that. But with baseball, I'm a Nats fan. I mean, I live in Washington D.C., Washington Nationals.
Oh, okay.
So I mean,
my convictions are the same. I will never change. I will never become another fan for anything. My teams are my teams. That's the way I root for my home teams. I'm a homer, but my teams come first. And if they are no, it's true. I mean, I am definitely a D-backs fan. I grew up.
You called yourself a homer.
Well, okay, that's funny, I guess, for like if we're in like the 7th grade. But when I talk about a homer, I mean I root for the home teams. I really do. I know you do, but
what if the audience thinks it's funny?
This is the thing about me is that I didn't follow baseball. And baseball's kind of a new thing that I've been following. So I followed basically when the Nats came to town. I became kind of a Nats fan. I was definitely a Baltimore hater for forever. I used to get free tickets to watch the Baltimore Orioles play when I was in the Navy, and I would literally go there just to root against them. I didn't care who was playing. I just went there to root against them. I've always hated the Redskins, just because this town goes crazy over it, over the Redskins, and I'm just not a Redskins fan. And being a Rams, since they're NFC, that kind of thing. It was nice it would be nice to see a lot more Redskins games, but that just doesn't happen as much. I don't know. Rams have always been. We grew up watching the Rams, so we didn't really grow up watching hockey. We didn't grow up watching.
That's what I'm saying, and I do think we should move on. But that's exactly what you're saying. Is that was ingrained us. That's what we grew up. I mean, that's part of our fabric. I mean, that's who we are. I came home from the hospital in a Rams uniform or outfit or whatever you want to call it. I mean, that's all I ever knew, and that was a sport of our house. No, it truly was.
And this is how
that's all I've ever known.
This is how I knew Mom and Dad didn't like me, because I had a Vikings jacket. We had the Rams jacket. I got a Vikings jacket.
Did you really?
Yes, I remember this when I was young.
Why would you get a Viking? I know we're getting off track here, but I got to know this. Why would you get a Vikings jacket?
Well, because they were going to use my outfit, and he wouldn't fit. And so
why a Vikings jacket? I mean, why a
I don't know.
I don't know if that's really.
What did they buy a 2-pound bag of peanut M&Ms and the jacket came free with it or something?
Maybe they got it on sale. I know my mom worked at Nordstrom's at the time. Maybe it was just something they got on sale.
Wow, that's.
Yeah,
well, at least they didn't. If you were a Rams fan, at least they didn't put you in like a 49er jersey or something.
Oh, come on. Well, they knew I was straight.
Oh.
Well, they were hoping. They were hoping.
Oh,
different
era back then,
That's
all right. So,
well, before we move on from sports, I want to, this is the moment of silence here for the U.S. soccer team. They played a hell of a game today. I don't know if you watched. I know, Dave, I think you watched some of it, but they played a great game today.
I think I heard that was the most saves.
Their goaltender Howard is a beast. He is awesome, and if it wasn't for him, it would probably have been a lot worse.
What was the score?
It was 2-1, but that was extra time. Yeah, all the goals were in extra time. They went 0-0 after the first 90 minutes, and then Belgium came out and scored a couple quick ones.
The first couple of minutes, yeah.
Yeah, and then the U.S. came back to score one, and they had their chances. They played a great game. It's sad to see him get kicked out, but I wasn't really expecting him to go past this round, anyways. But I don't think anybody was. It would have been great to see him.
I was gonna watch it, but I decided that I needed a little more excitement in my day, so I sat out in my backyard for 3 hours and I watched some of my grass grow.
Yeah. Well, I don't understand. That game was exciting to watch.
You're a real patriot. I got you.
Hey,
anyway,
you know what? You deserve that. You deserve that for that 49er crack. I owe you that one.
49ers like a lot of butt crack. Yes.
Okay.
Oh,
All
right, let's move on.
So we'll maybe we'll try and find a way to talk about baseball for the remainder of the time we have before football season starts. But I think we're probably 5 weeks away from football season, so that should be good. And maybe later as we close out, somebody can get us up to date on what happened in tennis today. But we discussed and decided that what we wanted to talk about was kind of an interesting way this topic got brought up. Dave and I were talking about it the other day, and I couldn't tell you how Dave and I talk about the things we talk about, but it spurs these conversations. And we were discussing I guess the etiquette, the history, and everything of tipping. And I did a little bit of research today and found out some very interesting things. Of course, when you read things on the internet, you'll a lot of stories contradict each other, but it seems like there's evidence that tipping actually goes back to the days of the Romans. At Middle English time, tipping meant to give, and at one point there used to be a box out front where people would drop things in there, and it seems to be commonly agreed upon that tipping means in slang to ensure promptness. And in the United States, after the Revolution, we stopped tipping temporarily, and I believe that was kind of a hangover from us still being upset with the British and not wanting to take on some of those things, and so tipping died off and then came back to what we have today, which has turned into I think what seems to be what could be an interesting topic. So what's your thoughts on tipping?
Well, let's start out with this with another question. What do you consider on food service when you're going out to a restaurant? A normal food service. What do you consider a good tip?
A good tip, or
I would say here's what I'll say: a good tip, a great, or well, I'd say an adequate tip, a good tip, and then what you would consider a great service tip.
Well, I'll start out the controversy right away, get everybody riled up by answering that question first, because I'll publicly go on record. Anybody that knows me really well knows that I'm not the world's greatest tipper. So in my world, if I get what I consider to be normal service is to me someone's friendly, they greet me, they keep my drink cup filled, they bring me my food, they check in with me occasionally, just the basics, what I would consider to be a proper meal. I will normally tip anywhere between 10 and 15%, depending on sometimes the mood I'm in and also the price of the meal. I have a tendency to probably tip more on a less expensive meal, because if my meal's $7, I'm not going to tip somebody 70 cents. And so that's me. I'm anywhere from 10 to 15%.
Interesting.
How about you, Dave?
I know we've talked about this a lot and probably in great lengths, and I don't know right or wrong. I don't know if there's a equation to people. I mean, you do hear that probably the normal tip out there today, my understanding is about 20%. That's what I always hear. And I think it's evolved. I think the 10 to 15% was probably more adequate or accepted, some time ago. I think today the realistically, I mean, you're usually looking at about 20%. And there's no rhyme or reason for the way I do it. It's just the way I do it. And I'm pretty much a 20% tipper on a good service thing. I have been known to tip extreme. I don't know if it's a spread the wealth thing. I don't know if it's my humanitarian thing. I don't know what it is. I just like to do it. I like to tip, and if I get really exceptional service, I'll tip way above and beyond. And I'm not wealthy. I'm not anything like that. It's just my thing. It makes me feel good to do that. I feel like if somebody's really worked hard, I mean, I'll tip as much as 25, 30%, and I've tipped more than that before. And it does depend on what I've spent and so on and so forth. But I am right at the 20% thing on average.
Yeah, I have to say, for really crappy service, if I got really crappy service, it may be slightly above 15%. If it's normal service, I'm probably a little bit over 20%. I usually round up. I just do, like, say it's $20, that's $4, automatically. If it's $22, then I say okay, maybe it's $5, or maybe it's the $4.80. I kind of just round up on that. If I'm at a bar and I get a couple of drinks and it comes out to be like $12, I might just give the whole 20 and just say the rest tip. Yeah, I mean it really just depends on the mood and just kind of the atmosphere. I know that especially when you're at a bar, if you want prompt service, you give a tip. I mean, and the bartenders, believe me, the bartenders will remember you if you give them a $6 tip on a bill or things like that. It's really not that much if you're thinking about it. The difference between giving $4 and $6, I mean, it's $2 in your pocket. I mean, to them, it means psychologically it can mean a lot more, and they'll definitely treat you well. To me, that the 20% is almost a guarantee. If you give me normal service, I'm going to give you 20%, including on bills that are, let's say I went out to really something fancy and it was $130. I'll give 20% on a $130 tip on a $130 bill. That's just what's in my. I worked in food service. I know how crappy it is, and I know what kind of job it is. It's not a fun job. I mean, when serving people, so I tend to sympathize with that by giving them a good tip.
Well, I'm the cheapskate in the group here. So I'm going to ask then. You made a comment earlier that if the service is crappy, you're going to give 15%. Doesn't that kind of defeat the purpose of tipping? If somebody's going to they're going to give crappy service and they're going to get tipped anyway, what's the point?
The point is that's how they make their money. It's still their living. You could screw with it a little bit, but that's really how they make their money.
Well, yeah. I guess I'd jump in there and disagree. I mean, if you really had terrible service, like somebody just does not taking care of you, not being attentive, not friendly, not any of that, I would have a hard time tipping the 20%. I mean, I want to tip more. I want to give it to you. I want you to come take care of me. I want everybody to smile. I want you to have a good day. I want to give it to you. I think if somebody is not into it and is going to give you such poor service that maybe they just don't give a darn, whatever the fact may be, I would probably go the other way. I mean, I'm not going to give anything, but I would definitely be probably down to the 10% range, easily. Where a lot of other people might just stiff somebody like that, and somebody like that, I think, in the grand scheme of things, is not going to be able to make it. I mean, because I know what average people do, they're just not going to take care of somebody like that. So what is it? Your welfare thing? It's because he's doing a job. He deserves to. No. to get the money.
Maybe he's having a bad day. Maybe he did work 4 tables that stiffed him, and now he's just pissed off. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make it better for the other people that come in. I'm going to give them a good tip. It's going to maybe raise his spirits a little bit, and maybe he gives better service to other people.
Okay,
So you're also creating a culture of expectation, entitlement. I have I'm not going to say who it is. I know somebody who waits tables, and honestly, they weren't that good at it probably, and they had an attitude that if they didn't get 20%, they felt like they had been cheated, and they felt like, well, this is BS. I didn't get my tip because they calculated it as part of their paycheck. Well, this is I brought you your food, and I did this and I did that, and I'm entitled to that. And unfortunately, when you reward somebody for crappy service, they figure that they just, well, this is what I'm entitled to. This is my expectations. Every single one of us works. I work on straight commission. If I don't do my job, I don't get paid. My customers don't put me on a welfare program and say, well, maybe John had a bad day today, so we'll just buy stuff from him. We'll buy stuff from him anyway.
I'm not talking about giving somebody thousands of dollars to bring me food. As maybe you make thousands of dollars, with in your paychecks, but we're talking about giving them a few dollars.
Well, the principle's still the same. Whether it's millions of dollars or pennies, the principle doesn't change.
To me, in my conscience, I cannot not tip. I can't. I know I've worked in that industry. I know how hard it is, and I know it sucks.
Okay, then maybe you say to somebody like that, maybe you get a different job. Tell me this. Here's a hypothetical. What if you went to the same restaurant every Friday night? You guys went and had pizza, and 50% of the time that you go to that restaurant, you get John as your waiter, and John repeatedly gives you terrible service.
Hey, wait a minute.
Then I would definitely talk if I'm a patron of this place and it's a place I go regularly. Then you talk to the people who run the place and say, listen.
Okay, so then they fire you.
This guy anymore.
Oh, great! So now I'm unemployed.
Well, then I don't care, because if I know you and you know me as a regular customer, and you still give me crappy service, then screw you.
So you're going to give a guy a pass on a one-time deal, just thinking maybe he has a bad day?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, so what if you go back? What if second time? Same service.
Time it's bad again, then I probably would cheap him, but I've never had that happen.
Okay,
and I guess originally tipping, the whole purpose of tipping, in my opinion, is what it says, to ensure promptness, to ensure proper service. You tip the guy who parks your car. You park your car in Las Vegas at a hotel casino, and it's free. It used to be that tipping was you tipped the guy so that you got your car out quicker. You tipped your guy because he parked it at a good spot. You tipped the guy because he gave you service over and above what he was getting paid. It has now turned into, in some cases, you have to tip people to keep from getting crappy service. I feel like I have to tip the guy in Las Vegas who's parking my car to make sure that he doesn't park it next to some guy and dig the door. It's gone the total opposite. And now
it's also
not required.
Yeah. Well, it's also gone from an employer paying a minimum salary to somebody, or at least paying them a salary, and then the person not expecting to get tips or getting tips occasionally, to now I'm going to pay you as little as I possibly can because I know you're getting tips. And so that's what's happening is you work in the industry, and I think it's different in different states too. But
it actually it's interesting you brought that up. It is tipping. Tipping is you're correct. It allows an employer to pay under the minimum wage, except that is not the case in Alaska, California, Minnesota, Montana, Nevada, Oregon, and Washington.
Yeah.
So those employees still are required. Employers are required to pay minimum wage regardless of whether they receive tips or not. But I don't, I don't think it's fair to blame this on the employer, because what the employer is doing is responding to the marketplace. The employer could pay that food service worker minimum wage. You could pay him $8 an hour as opposed to $2 an hour. But then my $6 hamburger at Applebee's would probably turn into a $9 hamburger at Applebee's, and I wouldn't eat at I wouldn't get hamburgers at Applebee's. I'd maybe make a choice not to eat there. So there could be the argument could be made that person's job is being preserved.
So then the onus comes back on you, because you won't pay $9 for that hamburger, so that guy can get minimum wage. So now you have the employer is forced down to paying a lower payment so that you can get your $6 hamburger, but yet you're going to pay a tip on top of that, so you're ending up paying the $9 for the hamburger. Why not just pay the guy the minimum wage and not expect tips?
Well, because people still tip. People.
Okay.
I don't know how there's. I actually read an article earlier today, and I should have printed it out and got more information. But there was 2 restaurants that did that. It was like a case study, but I just didn't have enough energy to read it, and were very successful at that. Where they were, I think one of them was in California, and they did not allow their servers to accept tips, and they told the patrons when they came in, you do not tip the servers, and the results seemed to be that the servers were happy with the wages they were making. The patrons were happy with their service. Everybody seemed to be pretty happy with the whole deal.
I think that really depends on other criteria. I mean, there are positions available where tipping can be very advantageous. There's other places where you're really kind of struggling. So it really depends on, the forum that you're in. Now, I dated some people in that industry and what have you that have done very well. I've dated others that have really struggled with it, and a lot of it just has to do with where you're at. Maybe you're in a tourist location, maybe you're not, maybe you're, the demographics play a lot into that too. It's kind of, just kind of interesting to think about. I know up in Alaska, and one of the states that you were talking about, where they do still pay them a good wage, or the minimum wage, which was $8 or $9 a few years ago, I know. And like in Anchorage, for example, which is a very touristy area, people are normally on vacation. They're expecting to spend money. They're tipping a lot better, what have you. I also know down in here where we have a lot of retired people and what have you, they are much poorer tippers. Maybe they're working on a fixed income or things of that nature, so that changes the game entirely. And, it can be frustrating.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I think that tips incentive, are things that incentivize the employer to work harder. But I don't know.
And I guess that's the part I don't agree with. I think that unfortunately, as a culture, we've gotten to the point where tips are expected, and the level of service. There's some smart people out there that really give exceptional service so they can get that 25-30% tip. But I think, unfortunately, a lot of people just they've already figured it in that they're going to get that 20%. I can't back these facts up. I got them off the internet, and so we're just going to, for the sake of conversation, have to assume that maybe they're correct. But some of the research I was doing said that Cornell University did a study, and I couldn't tell you how they did it or what they did, but they did a study on tipping, and their determination is that the quality of service received by an individual did not correlate to the amount of the tip that person got. Yeah. I don't know if that's good, or I don't know if that means that lousy service got great tips or great service got lousy tips, but they could not say that the amount that was tipped affected the service that people were getting.
I'm one person, so this isn't.
No, you're not
going to fit into all that, but I know that it absolutely does for me. If somebody, I like to be generous, so I like to do good things, and if I see somebody really working and they're friendly and they're attentive and that kind of thing, I am absolutely going to tip more money. And I know other people. I've got very intelligent friends that it's cut and dry. They've got a number in their head, and it does not matter. None of that other criteria or anything matters. It's a set figure. They're going to give their 12 or 15% regardless, period. They've got that set in their mind. If it's $10, they're getting a $2 tip. Nothing else matters. Doesn't
$2? Jeez.
Doesn't matter how long you sat in their station.
$1.
It doesn't matter what kind of service you had. That's the number they're going to tip with. That they've got it all figured out in an analytical way. I don't know. It's a really interesting thing. I look at a lot of the other variables, and that's the big thing for me. I want to do it. I want you to do well, and I'm just a good guy. That's what I do. I just love people, and I love you guys. No, seriously. That's how I feel. I just I want to do it, and I understand.
How I am.
We're all in this.
I'm the same way. I cannot not tip. It's just kind of ingrained in me that I need to tip, and I need to tip.
Well, I guess I'm the wet blanket then. I think I have the same. I think I feel the same way you guys do. The only difference is the numbers. You tip 20% for what you expect for your service to be. I tip 10% for that. When you get exceptional service, you're in the 20-25%, and I'm in the 15. For me to give somebody a 20% tip is phenomenal service. That's somebody. If I'm going to give somebody a 20% tip, more than likely I'm pretty close to going and getting the manager and telling them that server was amazing.
Well, remind me not to go out with you, because that would be extremely embarrassing for me if I were to sit down with somebody and they gave a 10% tip.
So that opens up another topic. Why is that?
Especially if the service was good.
Well, I know, but isn't that? Now you make me, because I've had people say to me, "Oh, you're a lousy tipper," and give me a bunch of grief. And quite honestly, that really pisses me off. Isn't it my choice to do that? I shouldn't feel pressured.
It absolutely is.
Really, that's why I don't want to go out to eat with you.
But see, that's where I'd probably disagree with Jason. It's a personal thing for me. I want to do it. If you choose to do less, or you choose to do your 10 or 15, I don't have a problem with that. I was actually out last week, and it was actually a week ago today, with a friend of mine, and we had really good service, and I actually tipped. What is that? I actually tipped 20%. Or it was a little over 20%. She tipped 50%. 50%. And I saw it. I never questioned her. I didn't ask why, but I knew why. I knew that she had it. I knew she wanted to do it. It was we split the bill. Hers was $20-some, and she gave she actually gave a $15 tip, and it was less than 25. So it's actually more than that. I had the same bill. I had a $20 bill, and I gave like $7 or $8, which was pretty high too, just because it was at a bar. Really good rapport, just having a lot of fun, a lot of interaction. It was just a good time. We were there for a long time, and I think it was as much for the experience as anything, and the person that was taking care of us did a really good job of it. So that's a little exceptional. I don't normally do something quite like that, but I got a feeling the person I was with would do that on a normal basis. She was just really happy with what was going on. She felt like she had good rapport, and so she stepped up and did it. And I thought that was awesome. You can afford it. You feel good. It makes you feel good. Why not?
That's what I'm saying. When you're at a bar and you get and you feel like there's a good service going on, my tips could be as high as 50%. Like I'm saying, I'll give $20. Maybe not 50. Maybe it's more along the 40 or 35%. But it's just To me, it's
I mean,
more.
I've done that. I've done that in circumstances, very specific circumstances where I was waiting in a bar and I'm trying to get a table faster. I'm asking for something extraordinary from the server, from the person at the desk, whatever it is. I mean, I've tipped maitre d's at shows and places like that to get a better table. You know, I've tipped valet attendants, you know, extra money to leave my car out front because I wasn't going to be in that long. But I don't know, you know. So I guess if we all go out to eat, I'll let you guys know how much I'm going to tip, so that you can kind of fill in and.
Well, see, that's the thing is if I go out to eat with somebody and they don't tip right, I'll sometimes go back and leave some.
And I'm perfectly okay with that.
Yeah.
I'll tell you right up front if you want how much I'm going to tip, so that if you feel that uncomfortable. But I would feel bad if you made me feel uncomfortable about it. You know.
Oh, you could. Well, some people would feel uncomfortable with me going back and putting more extra money on the table.
I wouldn't feel uncomfortable about that unless you made a big production about it and made me feel bad about it. Like if we were leaving and you basically told me, "Wow, you gave that girl a shitty tip. I'm going to give her some extra money because you're such a cheapskate." Then it'd be like, "Okay, well, yeah, that would make me feel bad."
Because we're talking about a few bucks. We're not talking about I'm putting a honey down on the table for them to take home with them.
I understand that, but people value things differently, though, and I get that. I mean, you and I see things in the same light in a lot of ways. I can see where I know people that have a lot more money than me that see it differently. I mean, they're counting those dollars all the time, and it affects them differently. I get that. I mean, maybe that's why they have more money than me. One of the other places I'm thinking about, I play golf at a course within a mile of my house, and I play there often. I've played there a couple hundred times probably. They all know me well. There's some young kids that work there that are great. They take extra special care of me. They always are friendly. A lot of times we sit around and chit-chat and what have you, and it's a good thing. And I just feel compelled. I want to do something nice for them. I know they're going to college, they're doing this, they're doing that. I just feel good doing it. I mean, it's just my own personal thing. I don't expect other people to do it. I like to do it. That's why I do it.
So a question for you guys. I said earlier that this study done by Cornell University said that the actual quality of service received by an individual did not correlate directly with the amount of the tip they were received. Now, they did say that there was two things that they found did have a direct effect on the amount people tipped. What two things do you think they said directly affected someone's tip?
Whether or not the patrons were drunk.
Now, I would say friendliness.
Okay.
As one. I mean, and depending on how you want to spin that, but that would definitely be one. And gosh, and another one. Two things that directly affected.
They cited two things.
Right. I would think it's what type of mood the patron is in, whether or not they're in a festive, happy mood, or whether they're in a mood that if they're just kind of pissed off. I mean, I know when I'm out there, and if we're drinking and having a good time and stuff like that,
I would go along.
You guys are going to need to.
I'll go along with that.
You guys are going to need to get more shallow and more caveman like in your thought process. One of those was
the waiters good looking.
How attractive the
that was an easy one. Come on, we're better than this.
Well, actually, it sounds like the folks at Cornell University say we're not. No.
I'm saying we're better than this because we know that that's a fact. I absolutely know that's a fact.
Well, and the other one.
Well, I can tell you 100% sure that I never ever have tipped better for somebody who looked better than somebody else. My tips are the same price. I don't, because they're like, in that respect, they're the same thing as strippers. They're just out there for the money. They're not out there to
I
be.
get it, but you work it a little bit. Hey,
I have to say that I don't. The amount of my tip is not affected by the attractiveness of the waiter and or waitress because I'm a cheapskate no matter what. So it doesn't matter how cute they are. For me, it's personality. But the second item was how much the total bill was, and they say that people that have expensive meals, there's a tendency for people that can afford expensive meals have a tendency to tip larger because of that. And so I thought that was kind of interesting. Now I found another piece of information that is extremely controversial, but I feel like saying it anyway.
Cup size?
What's that?
Cup size?
No, it wasn't cup. You talking about for a guy?
Like supporter cup size.
Yeah. No.
If that's what you guys are thinking, you got bigger fish to fry.
No, it is not that. And so I do not. This is not to run us off onto another topic, but this is what they said. The same study showed that minorities receive significantly lower tips than non-minorities, regardless of the price of the bill, even when the people leaving the tip were minorities also. So I guess we're all just shallow, racist,
I would say in a lot of ways. I mean, and I don't, probably not too extreme, but I mean, the flirtatious thing, what have you. It could buy you a couple bucks, but I don't think that I would personally. I don't think that I've ever taken advantage or left less because somebody was a minority. If I got good service, I got good service. So I definitely wouldn't fit in that demographic.
And I never had. I don't fit into that category. Again, I'm an equal opportunity abuser. I cheat people. I'm cheap whether they're white, black, brown, cute, ugly. Don't care.
With me, my tips have no whatever. I don't care. Male, female, whatever. It doesn't matter who the server is. They're going to get pretty much the same. If I'm going to a restaurant, they're going to get the same tip. Now, I tip differently on different types of services, but for restaurants, it's going to be you're looking at probably that 20% tip.
So I do prefer. This is kind of off topic, but I do prefer female servers. If that makes me a sexist or whatever, I do prefer to be waited on by a female.
What about lovers?
Well, that's a whole nother topic. That's why I don't like male servers, because inevitably they always become attracted to me, and then I have to break their hearts, and that's.
As long as you're just breaking their hearts, I guess that's one thing. But so would you tip differently, percentage-wise, on a $20 meal versus, let's say, a $400 meal?
Well, a $20 meal with the service was a $20 meal if the service
was good. We're calling everything else the same.
I would probably tip on a $20 meal probably $23 to $24.
$24 tip. Wow.
No, I meant I'm sorry. The bill I would probably tip $3 to $4 on a $20 meal. On a $400 meal, I would not tip $80. I wouldn't. I would probably tip between $50 and $60 on a $400 meal. Maybe I don't. Yeah, if the service was just adequate, nothing spectacular. Yeah, I would not tip 20% on a $400 meal.
Yeah. Well, on a $400 meal, I might actually leave $500. Because that's probably somebody. If I'm spending $400 on a meal, it's got to be more than. It's got to be quite a few people, or unless we're going to some place like.
I'm not talking a big group. Let's say it was like your family. You just ate at a nice.
Taking my family out to a $400 meal.
Yeah, I'm thinking the most expensive.
First of all, these are hypotheticals. Just put yourself in the situation.
I would leave an $80 tip. Simple as that. I mean, it would be 20%.
Yeah, the only way I would leave a big tip on a $400 meal would be if it was a large group of people. Like if it was a group of 10 people, then I would leave. I would leave a big tip because they're working.
First of all, they're already going to add it.
Yeah, and the bigger ones they usually do. And this is the thing.
Which I think is BS to be anyway.
Yeah, I don't like when they put a tip on there.
You know what? I don't like.
They're hoping they double tip.
This has happened to me on a number of occasions where they add the gratuity and they don't inform you of it.
Yeah.
I've actually asked one time. I was actually in Texas on a work deal, so the company was buying. The gal told me, this is just one experience, but I got to share it now. She wouldn't give me an itemized bill. She just gave me, it was like a $400 bill. And I said, hey, I need an itemized bill. She goes, oh, we don't do that. I said, well, you need to get a manager over here or something. I need an itemized bill. I finally did get a hold of a manager who brought me the itemized bill. And I asked that gal, too. I said, was gratuity added to this? She told me no. They brought me the itemized bill. Not only was gratuity added, this girl had absolutely lied to me. She got fired that night. So she already had made 60, 70, 80 bucks, whatever it was. But you know what? She was wanting, how this would have worked out was I was going to tip not only on the meal, but the tip included, right, on top of it. This has happened to me on more than one occasion, so I'm very careful in those types of situations now. And that's the kind of stuff that really.
There's no restaurant out there that won't give you an itemized bill. Everybody gets.
Did you know that you do not have to pay that automatic 18% or whatever that is? If you can, and I did some research. I read a story about it was somebody in New York that refused the 18%, refused to pay it, and the restaurant called the police on the guy and tried to have the guy arrested for not paying his bill, and they would not arrest him for doing that. You do not have to pay that 18%. You can refuse that automatic gratuity.
Well, here's my thing about it is when I take that percentage, and that's the percentage they get as their tip. And if they tell me they're going to add a percentage on, I'm like, okay, that's your tip. So if you're going to add 18, I said I was going to give you 20%, but you put 18 down, so that's what you get. And that's how I kind of put it out there, because everybody can override the percentage of the tip that they put on there. Everybody.
Right. The reason they're doing that is they're trying to keep the server from getting cheated on a deal, and they would probably rather go that route because there are a lot of cheap people out there that wouldn't tip. So the unfortunate part about that is for other people like us is we'd probably give you a better tip, and I do feel like that. Once you already add that to it, it's like, you know what, you decided it. And I'll go with that. I'm not going to give you anything else. You made me pay that. So it's kind of a slippery slope for them. You don't want to say, well, I don't want to put this on, and the guy tips you 10% then. But you put this on, and the guy who's going to tip you more says, well, tough luck, that's what you got. So
I think I'm going to test the waters someday when I'm bored and I don't have my wife with me, because she'd get real embarrassed and test the water someday and say, no, I'm not paying that 18%. And if they take it off, then I'll probably tip them 20% or better. But part of me would like to test the waters on that and see what happens.
I've actually had a couple experiences like that recently. I was at Salty Senoritas with a couple of friends, and we were going to tip more. We were actually writing the tip on the tip and then realized what they'd done. And we actually told the gal, said, hey, you know what, I guess you decided what you're going to get. You just lost out on some money. And she said it wasn't her choice. It was the restaurant policy.
They can override that. Everybody can override that.
When you say override, you can always write more. I get that.
Yeah, well, they can take it off your bill.
Oh,
right.
Okay.
Yeah, they can't. It's just a policy that they do, and most of us just accept it.
Go along
accept
with
it for what it is, and we go along, and So another quiz question as we're starting to wrap this up. What percentage do you think of tips? This is an IRS estimate, obviously. What percentage of tips do you think are not reported by people who earn tips on their income tax?
Oh, it's got to be extremely high.
It's a high number. I'm going to go with 80%.
80%. Wow.
80%.
I would think it's higher than that because, well, you have to. They kind of force you to restaurants to do a certain amount of that, but I know people that work in the industry, they don't claim any of that as their. Basically, your salary is what it claims on taxes, and then what you take home doesn't, unless it's by credit card. Then you have to because the credit card is.
Well, and a lot of restaurants now are automatically, if you earn they're automatically taking your salary. My daughter was a server, and they take what she earns, and a certain percentage of that automatically gets reported as tip income. But so Dave said 80%. Are you going higher than that, Jason?
No, I it's probably around that. It's probably around 75 to 80%, I would think.
Again, I have no way to prove out the numbers, but IRS estimates that about 40% of all tips received by individuals are not reported on those people's income taxes.
Yeah, and I wonder how they come up with that equation, because I think on a volunteer basis, no one's.
They report part of. Actually, I know a lot of servers. Somehow I end up dating some of them, but I know I have been personally told that they report tips, they just don't report all their tips, and it's usually a small percentage of it. And usually they're struggling. I mean, that's the world we live in, and when you're in that industry, I mean, usually it's paycheck to paycheck, so every nickel helps. But the people I know have told me they claim a certain amount, but most of it they don't. They do what they have to do, because what you said is true, especially probably more today than ever. They're going to automatically be assumed for liable for so much tips, and whether you get it or not. I've asked. I said, well, what if you don't make that? They're like, it doesn't matter. That's the deal.
Yeah.
Well, I know that in closing that the tipping, my being cheap on tipping has really affected me this evening, because I've gone this entire time without having anything to drink. My cocktail waitress here at the house has yet to come by and take my drink order or anything. I'm hooked up to this cable. I was expecting maybe to get a visit and get a drink out of the deal, but I guess my wife knows what a poor tipper I am too, because she did not bring me a soda or anything. So I guess I'll maybe have to rethink this tipping thing a little bit.
Well, I think that's a good place.
You got to remove the no tip sign in your office.
I guess, yeah. I don't have a no tip sign.
Maybe she's expecting a different tip.
Okay, so this show is over.
I'm glad she's not in here. Do we have any? Are we done with sports for now?
I think we'll pick up next week.
Yeah, baseball is one of those things we can't. Picking games. I mean, there's games every single day. I mean, your team will get a day off like once in a while, but so it's kind of.
It'd be more you're more picking series, I think, at this point. But baseball is just not the best one. Football season comes around,
yeah, I mean, because you got 16 games a week and you just know them. I mean, and that's gonna be an easy one to pick.
All right.
I'm not saying that the picks will be easy, but it's an easy one to actually coordinate.
Well, so then for our little "Why Do We Say Things" segment, I picked something I think is interesting, and I'm really hoping that the Dark Nerd gets this, because I think it directly relates to something you used to do. But, gentlemen, tell me what scuttlebutt is.
Scuttlebutt.
No, tell me. I don't want to just know what it is. I want to know, why is it called scuttlebutt? Why is it called scuttlebutt?
Well, it's a naval term.
Right.
It just means. I'm not sure why it means scuttlebutt. It goes way back to like ancient. Not really ancient, but it goes back to old sailing times when they actually used sailboats to do it. Well, you know where they have the talk, talking about the water cooler. So they used to call the butts were the casks of rum that they had on the ship. Then you used to converse around those casks of rum, and so that's where they got the scuttle was just talking.
You're pretty damn close. Scuttlebutt. If you want inside information, forget public relations releases and listen carefully to the scuttlebutt. Most of it's
a gossip
and erroneous, but by mining this vein of talk, you may come up with an occasional gem. Scuttlebutt is half rumor, half gossip. That is because it was first heard when British sailors gathered around a large butt or cask of water. For no reason, such a container was nearly always placed close to the vessel's scuttle or hatch with a movable cover. Crew members who went for a drink of water liked to exchange the latest rumors with their mates, so talked under a scuttle that sheltered a butt became scuttlebutt.
Yeah, I always just knew it as where people, the gossips and rumors and whatever was going on.
Yeah, standing around being
chit chat. Yep, exactly.
So that was good. You were close. It was a cask of water, but I think a cask of rum. Where the judges say that that's a
yeah. It's kind of it's the water cooler thing. That's basically how it was explained.
I was always, but it was kind of. But why scuttlebutt? I mean, there's a lot of. Well, I'll find some better ones, but there's some very interesting things that we say, and I say a lot of these things and don't know why I've said them. Well, gentlemen, any parting remarks before we sign off?
No, it was actually kind of good. I enjoyed it. My first comment about using this topic was, hey, we're going to need a couple more things. There's no way we're going to spend an hour talking about tipping. And then I rephrased that. I was like, bullshit. We could probably talk all day about tipping.
This is a family show.
You could be my wingman.
You'll bleep that out. But truthfully, I knew we could. So it was, especially kind of trying to gear things back up and get back into the swing of things. Thought it was a nice light topic and something fun to talk about. John sounds like he did a little bit of research and the good boy that he is. And I think Jason and I just kind of winged this and did kind of like what we normally do. But it was fun. I enjoyed it, and kind of looking forward to getting some momentum back and maybe, having something, maybe being a little bit more prepared in the future like we talk about so often, but at least get some momentum going into next week. And
the next show is the preparation show. We'll just talk on the next show about what we're going to talk about in the following shows. How's that sound? No?
That sounds too much like work. That sounds like my conference calls, and that just, nah.
Well, Jason, what about you? Any parting remarks?
No, it's after midnight here on the East Coast.
All right, well, it's a brand new day for you. So then
tomorrow, I'm in the future, guys.
On behalf of all of us, I hope you enjoyed show number 5 of the Unnamed Hangout. I'm John, and my partners Dave and Jason. And for Dave and I, we'll say good night, and Jason, for you, I guess we'll say good morning.
All right. Click.